Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a major update on Greenland by the way of U.S. command responsibility. The United States has just redrawn their overall command responsibility to include Greenland, which makes total sense. You look at the geography, and geographically, Greenland should be part of North America. The Europeans saw this coming. Macron, before heading off to Canada to go to the G7, visited Greenland, said, "We stand with you." Remember, it was the French that said, "We're going to send troops to Greenland if Trump tries taking it over." Totally psychotic. But we've got this Pentagon shifts Greenland to U.S. Northern Command in shakeup. Trump wants Greenland under the United States and under the North American sphere of influence. This is the prep for the annexation that we all think is going to be coming, and it is very unpopular. I think there's a way that Trump could potentially do it. The timing is going to be very important if he does try to acquire the island. I think the best case scenario would be the United States just spend some money in Greenland on propaganda and bribing the officials, and it could be done very easily with a very little amount of money because of the population within Greenland. That's what I would say. But we want to do it diplomatically, and that's really the key thing here. The problem is there's so much TDS within the EU. Greenland is a proxy to the EU by way of Denmark. And another thing is we can't even, I guess, negotiate with Denmark, even though Denmark doesn't have a big economy and they give Greenland billions of dollars every year. You would think that they would want to at least be open to accepting an offer from the United States. We can either give you an offer or we can just annex it ourselves and do it in a way that's not very nice. But we want to be nice, and we want to cooperate. And we know the people of Greenland will be happy with this once they understand our offer. That's the other thing. It's like we haven't even given Greenland an offer, a formal offer on how we're going to invest into the territory. And it's all through mining. Just like when we acquired Alaska, the people within Alaska, they got a certain amount of extraction in terms of the resources. So when we'd extract from Alaska, they'd get a certain cut. It's the same thing with Greenland, and it's all upfront U.S. costs to where we have to invest into mining operations. Now it's come out that Greenland's trying to do these mining deals with the EU, with China, and with the United States, and the United States is inking a potential mineral deal with Greenland I saw a few days ago, and so we'll see if that ends up happening. They want to diversify the rare earth minerals, and it's not even necessarily the overall minerals because there are a plentiful amount within Greenland. We don't even know how many there are because it's hard to know the exact amount because of the amount of glacier ice on top. But you can measure like soil samples, things like that, and get an somewhat accurate reading within certain regions of the island, like in southern Greenland. It's the biggest rare earth deposit that's untapped that we have in the world that we know of, and that's just in Greenland. So, and this is not to say, well, we're going to completely eliminate our deficit with rare earth minerals from Greenland. This is a long-term process. It's a mining operation. There's a huge upfront investment. There's big costs because so little has been set up within Greenland. There's not much developed. I mean, it's 57,000 people. They all live on the coast because Greenland itself is a glacier. But this isn't even about the rare earths. It's part of it, and Trump wants it. But Trump wants Greenland as a territory for strategical Arctic reasons and for a presence within the Arctic. So this is big stuff. And the Europeans expected this for weeks. They were saying, we're worried about the announcement. What are they going to say? Well, Trump was very coy on the announcement, didn't say much, at least according to this article. Let's look at this. The Pentagon is redrawing its military combatant command responsibility for defending the U.S. homeland to include Greenland, as the Trump administration signals it wants control of the Danish territory. Quote, this change will strengthen the joint forces' ability to defend the U.S. homeland, contributing to a more robust defense of the Western Hemisphere and deepening relationships with Arctic allies and partners. That is from the Pentagon. The adjustment will shift responsibility for Greenland from U.S. European Command to U.S. Northern Command. So we're removing the European military responsibility and we're shifting it to a North American responsibility, which we all know is the United States. It's not Canada. This is very key. This is the strategic thing you do. You know, we want the responsibility. We want the island. and we're going to deepen our relationship with the people of Greenland. And that's why I said, let's just bribe them, just give them money, whatever, do whatever you have to do. We like doing things diplomatically. And so there's no war, there's no real invasion. It's Greenland doesn't have a military because Denmark doesn't allow it. If you're mad about that, go talk to Denmark about it. Because and also it wouldn't even make sense for them. They wouldn't have a big military anyways because their population is under 60,000. But you can take a look at this article. It says the Pentagon framed the revision as part of a broader review of its unified command plan, which divides the world into separate military units and outlines the roles and responsibility of U.S. combatant commands. No other changes on the command plan were included in the announcements. Quote, aligning Greenland with NORTHCOM will mean that it is treated not as an outpost, but as a cornerstone of U.S. security posture in the high north. So there's a high emphasis, and you can see European officials anticipated the change for weeks, which multiple outlets had reported ahead of Tuesday's announcement. Their concern was less about the shift itself, given that Greenland sits close to the U.S. homeland, than how the administration would announce it. Of course, within Europe, they are concerned that Trump may try and make a move on Greenland. When would be the appropriate time? Probably when something else in the world is happening. Let's say China decides to get overzealous and do something to Taiwan. We'll just go ahead and take Greenland at that point. And you could even argue with the Israel-Iran situation, but I hope diplomacy wins with Israel-Iran, and I really want Trump to negotiate with Iran, seriously. So hopefully that happens, but it's looking unlikely. Either way, when it comes to this is just another move for the United States to position ourselves in potentially acquiring Greenland. But you can see it says Europe expected this move. It was coming. They understand strategically why the United States would have this as part of their combatant zone and their responsibility because of the geographical position of Greenland as it relates to North America. It's right on top of it. It's right on top of it. So they're like, well, technically it makes sense, and they are the United States. They've got the world's strongest military, so it's understandable that they would extend it, but they also have to be thinking in the back of their heads, well, Trump has said he wants Greenland. This move, even though it might seem like it's a normal thing that you can understand doing in terms of the location of Greenland relative to North America, they're probably saying, well, this is just one step closer. This is normalizing the Greenland being under U.S. sphere of influence. And that's really what this is about. It's about this emphasizing we need more Arctic control. We need either some type of annexation or some type of agreement with Greenland to where, I mean, we would like it to be a territory. We would, and it's a legacy thing for Trump. It is. So, and then Greenland's the next Alaska, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of more people moving up there, it becoming a state eventually, it getting grandfathered in possibly 20 or 30 years. It's not something, this is a territory for many, many years. We have other territories. We've got a lot of territories surrounding the United States. So this is not anything that would be shocking, but we would like to do a situation to where let's do a deal so we can shut these people up about Trump being a dictator, and we'll give Denmark $20 billion for Greenland. And then, that's a legal acquisition of Greenland. Or the people of Greenland can say, we're done with it, and this was the problem in terms of their election. They're like, well, yeah, we want to vote for full independence because they have more sovereignty, but they don't have the full independence from Denmark. Technically, if you look at, they are owned by Denmark still, even though it's a loose ownership now. But we need them to move this along. They don't want to do it, though. That's the problem. They're saying, well, we want independence, but they don't want to move it along. So when are you going to do that? And so that's what Trump is really wondering. That's why it came out about a month ago that the U.S. was going full propaganda. We were investing in propaganda in Greenland and trying to tell these people because the EU has really ratcheted it up. You know, back in January when Don Jr. went, who I think is a lot more unlikable than J.D. Vance, Don Jr. got welcomed by a lot of the people of Greenland, and then J.D. Vance tries going 2 months later, and he can't even do a public appearance with citizens because they got so much EU anti-Trump propaganda. It became overwhelming, and the citizens were like, well, are these people fascist? Are they trying to take us over? No, we want your resources. We love you. That's the point of it. And so we want to help these people. but we'd like to do it diplomatically. So whether that's a deal with Greenland directly, they would have to spur Denmark and fully become independent, which they can do. I believe they can, but the problem is, I mean, they would have to have a deal in place to have other military protection, because they would be naked at that point if they decided to spur Denmark. So they would have to decide what they want to do in terms of that. It is only 57,000 people. There's not much developed within Greenland, so it's not like it would be a huge wonder in terms of China attacking it based off of the location. I mean, are we going to let China come in and influence Greenland? There's been reports that, well, China's very interested in potentially doing some type of mineral deal with Greenland in exchange for having influence in northern Greenland, the heavy Arctic areas and some of the waterways, and Trump knows that can't happen. There's a similar thing that we're dealing with the Panama Canal, in which Trump forced China to sell both of their ports on either side of the canal, and also, I mean, he bullied Panama and directly China. So, and we'll see what ends up happening there. But Hegseth recently said, well, I can't confirm or deny that we're going to be doing some type of military operation on Greenland. We have a lot of plans. We have a lot of contingencies on many different things. So it would be inappropriate for me to really speak on that and say in a positive or negative in terms of Greenland. But this would be just so amazing to do this in terms of having diplomacy here. The problem is these people just hate Trump. And it's not because Trump's a bad person. He's just so much better than Biden, and just how evil Biden was, and just it's so bad. Trump's really sweet, and just he wants so much peace, and that's why I'm shocked what's happening with Israel, Iran. But with Greenland, we would love to do a deal with Denmark. Or can we do a deal? I mean, it would make sense for you guys to do a deal. What is your nation's GDP? We'll give you $20 billion right now to take Greenland off your hands. Look at the location of Greenland. You guys can't really influence anything within Greenland. They've got tons of minerals there. We'll do a mineral deal with Denmark to where they indirectly receive minerals that we mine from Greenland, and we can help them as well. We want to have a good relationship with Europe. We do. But this has to happen because it's important. Strategically, it's important. It's important for the Arctic. It's important for North America. It's important for Europe. And that's why these Europeans are probably like, well, yeah, of course they're going to realign their command responsibility to include Greenland because of where Greenland is located. See, that's the dirty little secret. Greenland is a North American territory. Now you can say, well, technically it's Denmark's. It goes back, so they have a stake on it. But look at the location of it. This is a North American territory. It would make so much more sense based on the U.S. military size, based on the location of Greenland, based on the military size of Denmark, based on the fact that Greenland only has 57,000 people and they have no army, based on the fact that Greenland has severe infrastructure problems and Denmark cannot subsidize them to the point to give them better living conditions. It makes total sense for a U.S. acquisition peacefully of Greenland. A peaceful acquisition. I would rather just negotiate with Denmark. The people of Greenland seem to be, but I don't think Denmark wants to negotiate. These countries just hate Trump, even though it makes total sense, even though now we've increased our sphere of responsibility to include defending Greenland. We cannot help the people of Greenland and invest in a huge mining operation, and also probably a massive refinement zone, by the way, because there's no population in a lot of that area, and that's where we can refine a lot of the minerals. We don't have to send them to China. You're going to be dealing with because it's a territory, you don't have to deal with all the high-level environmental regulations that you do in the lower 48. That's one of the problems when it comes to the refinement. The bigger issue with rare earths is refinement. It's not necessarily the actual rare earths. Rare earths are not as rare as people think they are, even though they're called rare earths. We have a lot of rare earths. We cannot refine them. They have to go to China. We're going to set up massive refining zones, probably next to military installations, but also possibly on Greenland as well. That's a potential for us to do. But what China has to understand, if they make a move on Taiwan, we will go ahead and take Greenland because it's strategically important, and that's something that we need to do to counter it. And we're not trying to make it an arms race or anything like that. I mean, Taiwan and Greenland are very, very different in terms of the population of Taiwan, in terms of the GDP, in terms of their semiconductor company and how massive it is. Greenland has nothing built up like that. This is a total different situation, but I'm just saying, we're going to be taking Greenland and Alberta if they decide to do something. Well, maybe not Alberta, but I mean, there's always the option with Alberta if things get really bad. There is that we've talked about it, the potential for Alberta to secede and have a very close relationship with the United States. I mean, it is a possibility because of how left the Canada has gotten. So that's always another thing if something happens with China, and we'll have to see what happens with Israel, Iran. But either way, guys, this is big stuff, and I think Trump is setting it up now. Now it's under our responsibility. Now it makes more sense for us to take over control of the island and make it a U.S. territory, hopefully through diplomatic means. Because then, what do liberals say? If we do a diplomatic deal with Denmark, what are liberals really going to say about that? It's you can really, the thing is it starts with the citizens of Greenland and trying to convince them. I think that's the main thing, and there just hasn't seemed to be much of an argument from the administration on why the people of Greenland could benefit significantly from U.S. investment and from our economy. And I do think it's going to be a major long-term, a major plus, a net positive. And you're talking about a net positive in terms of the pricelessness of having control of Arctic territory. And it's not even just the priceless aspect of it. It's also the minerals that they have. And if we're able to mine those, if you buy it for $30 billion, you do some type of investment. I mean, they say that it's impossible to say exactly the amount of rare earths and how hard it would be to mine certain rare earths. You can't really predict it. It's just not, because I'm sure that Greenland has trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth of rare earths. A lot of them are very hard to get to. The mining of them would be extremely expensive, so it necessarily wouldn't be worth it. But there are a lot that are in places that are accessible along the coast, and those would be the ones that would be exposed to a massive, rampant U.S. mining operation, to where the Greenland would also get a cut of that as well. So that's going to help them, and maybe we could do a deal with Denmark to potentially give them a cut of it. I mean, we want to help these European countries. They've all gone left, and we want to be nice to them. But I mean, if Trump really wanted to, he could just send in a military, and it would be securing the island. They do not have an army. I don't know. Who are you invading exactly? You're invading the people. You're invading the citizens. There's no one to invade. Now, that's why France said they were going to send troops, and I think they were bluffing. I mean, if they did that, that would be very, very bad for them. If something happened between the United States and the French in Greenland, them trying to defend Greenland, it's insane. I think it's all posture. So that's something that is open to Trump, to where if he has to do it, I mean, I guess, but that would definitely raise the whole liberal talking point of Trump being a dictator if you did something like that to a territory that, to be fair to Trump, it's a very unique situation. This is not a territory that is completely independent. They are not an independent country. They are controlled by another country. That territory is controlled by another country. And so, yes, in 2009, they got more independence, but they're still technically controlled. So either way, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, guys. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.